Hey everyone, I just wanted to talk to you for just a quick minute about decks. It is summertime, it's hot, especially here in South Louisiana, and decks are very, very important substrates in order to prep correctly. So I look at a lot of complaints with decks, probably more than any other complaint I look at. And almost 100% of the time, it's due to the prep. Decks weren't really meant to be painted. When people were getting decks at their fishing camp, things like that, they weren't coating them. And that's why when you see a lot of these older fishing camps, they have that grayed over deck that's never had anything on it. And it's that classic swamp scene. That's because decks, when they were originally manufactured, were just kind of, that wooden deck was just made to stay raw. But decorative taste took over, and I'm glad for that. And people started wanting to coat those decks, whether it be staining them or painting them. And so the paint industry had to kind of follow suit and make products that were would last on a deck as long as it was prepped correctly. So I'm going to cover a few with you. I'm going to go over prep with you a little bit. Decks are not hard to paint or stain. It just requires some knowledge as far as prep work. So the first thing we're going to talk about is cleaning your deck. Seems like common sense, but this is probably shortcutted more than any other process in the prep process. People just don't clean them well enough. Here's what I would recommend you do. First thing you want to do is go ahead and spray off that deck. Clean it as much as you can just with a pressure washer. At that point, there's a product and it's called Deck Bright. Deck Bright comes in a powder. You mix it with water, and then you simply apply this product onto your deck. You can use a pump up sprayer is what a lot of people use, and they let it sit about 5 minutes. Then they take a water hose and they just wash it off. Deck Bright, what it does is it not only brightens the wood and it'll kind of make it look new again, but it will also open up those dead wood fibers. It'll open up the pores in that wood. That's very important, especially when you're using a stain on that deck. And there's solid stains and there's semi-transparent stains. So regardless of which process that you're going with, you definitely want to use Deck Bright to open it up, because it's going to open up the pores in that wood and it'll allow that wood to accept the stain. So you spray it on there with a garden sprayer. You let it sit about 5 minutes. That's going to kind of work it into the wood, and then you just spray it off with a pressure washer, and that step is done. You let that deck dry, and then you can coat it. It's ready for a coating. However, before you even go to that step to where you're actually coating that deck, you want to perform a splash test. Now, the reason you're performing a splash test is you want to make sure that when you use that Deck Bright, that it opened up the pores in the wood in all the areas of the deck. So you just you can take a cup of water and you pour it in inconspicuous spots throughout that deck. If that water seeps in, then it means that deck wood is open and ready to accept stain or a solid water-based stain. So you want to pour it in inconspicuous spots throughout that deck. Where I see people make mistakes is they pour it on one part of the deck, it seeps in, and they think they're good to go. But what happens if another part of that deck is not open? So you want to pick about 6 or 7 spots throughout that deck. If it seeps into 6 or 7 random spots, you're probably fine. So at that point, it's ready to be coated. You let it dry, and then you've got 2 options there. You can pick a semi-transparent deck stain, or you can pick a solid high deck stain. Now, what's the difference between those two? A semi-transparent deck stain is very similar to what you would see on a cabinet inside of a house. It's semi-transparent. You can see through it. The grains of that wood take that stain deeper than what's on the outside of those grains, and it gives you that semi-transparent look. A solid deck stain is a deck stain that looks like paint, but you can still see the highlights of the grains inside that wood. So it looks like paint. In other words, it's solid. It's a solid color. However, those pretty grains that are in that wood, those are still highlighted. So there's two choices there, really. Whichever one you go with is a good choice. It's all based off of taste. I personally like solid deck stains. And why you would use a solid deck stain versus a regular paint is kind of twofold. A solid deck stain is designed to penetrate the deck and actually get into those wood fibers and really grab that deck. A regular paint is more or less designed to dry on top. So when you got to walk on that deck, you're likely to experience like peeling issues and stuff like that. So you want to make sure that you use a 100% acrylic paint that is designed for decks. And those 100% acrylic paints are typically what they call urethane fortified. So that means that there's actual urethane inside of that deck stain that enables you to be able to walk on it, and it takes some abuse without peeling up on you. I'm going to show you a couple of examples of semi-transparent deck stains and solid deck stains. Here's a semi-transparent deck stain. This is called TWP. Great product. Fabulous on fences as well. But what kind of sets TWP apart is that it is a stain and a finish in one. And when I say finish, I mean there is resin inside of that will literally bead water up after it's stained. So it's gonna keep that wood from rotting for a long time. Probably the best semi-transparent stain on the market, in my opinion, as far as wooden fence, decks and fence stains. Very easy to apply, and you want to apply that product with I recommend a deck pad. I don't recommend rolling it. It's just too thin. If you roll it, it makes a mess. You will have stain flying everywhere. But you can get a deck pad, screws onto a pole, and you basically just pull that pole, and it pulls that stain into your deck. Makes it really simple. So that would be on the semi-transparent side. What you want to make sure of with TWP is that you definitely kind of flood that deck with it. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to leave that thing puddling. If it puddles and you just leave it puddling, what'll happen in that case is it will do what they call flash on you. Those puddles will dry, but they'll stay shiny. They'll be like super glossy, and it will ruin the integrity of that stain. So you want to make sure that if you do get some puddling with it, you take a rag or something and you wipe all that up. Very easy product. Next thing we have, and this is an example of a solid deck stain. This is Farrell-Calhoun's Permastain line. Fantastic product as well. The way you would apply this, it's fine to roll it, it's fine to brush it, and like I say, it will literally coat that deck as if it were paint, regular house paint, but it will still penetrate that wood. It still has that urethane in it. It's water based, so it cleans up with water. I have that on my deck right now. I'm having no mildew problems, nothing. That paint is stuck so hard you couldn't get it off with a chisel. Really good stuff. Permastain from Farrell-Calhoun paint. Now, lastly, and I don't want this to go too long, but you may be someone who already has a deck that is coated. Let's say you already have a stain on your deck and you want to go ahead and you want to paint it. Can I paint right over that stain? Can I use that permastain product and put that over my deck? Yes and no. Here's what I recommend you do. This is really what you need to do. There's a product called Deck Strip. Okay, in Deck Strip, you basically, this doesn't need to be diluted. It's already diluted, so you can pour this in a sprayer, a garden sprayer. You can soak that deck with it. You let it work in for about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then you just wash it off, and it will strip that stain that's under there. It'll get the majority of it. You may have to take sanding block or something and get some spots it didn't get. But that is a heck of a product. You strip it with that, and then you can go over it with a paint at that point. You should be fine. You just got to make sure you get all that old stain off. Deck Strip makes it easy. After that, you're done. Deck's done. You'll have a beautiful deck. You'll be proud to have people over and check out your new deck. I carry all these products locally in Denham Springs, Louisiana at Farrell-Calhoun Paint Company. And if you're in need, please give me a shout and I'll help you out. If you're not local, you can comment underneath this video and I'll answer any questions you may have regarding painting your deck. But hopefully this is pretty self-explanatory, easy process, and no worries. I would ask that if you watch this video, if you put a little like, especially if you're watching it from YouTube. If you did like the video and it helped you, just put a like on there. And if you're watching the YouTube version of this video, please subscribe. It's completely free to you. I give a lot of tips on my Chapman's Paint Place podcast that are valuable if you're into painting or decorating, or you have any questions related to that. So please subscribe. It will really help me out. I would also ask that if you're looking for me on social media, I do have my Facebook page at Chapman's Paint Place Podcast. You can search that. Same thing with Instagram. So I'd love to see all of you there. My website is paintpodcast.com. I do upload all my videos to that website, as well as issue blogs throughout the year where I talk about more paint than you could possibly imagine. So hopefully that'll help you out as well. I do want to remind you, if you're watching this video, that I do have a spin-off podcast called Local Leaders, where I focus on businesses that are thriving in Livingston Parish, and that's Louisiana if you're not local, and surrounding areas. So I'm going to have some Baton Rouge businesses on there as well, but I'm a Livingston Parish guy, and so I'm going to push local businesses here in Livingston Parish. Denham Springs, Louisiana is where I'm out of, but Livingston Parish in general, and try to give them a platform to help get their business out there into the public. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time. And incidentally, look for local leaders. I have 4 or 5 guests scheduled now that will be coming up that are pretty well known in this parish, and I look forward to talking to them soon. Thanks.